Hello, this is Mark from I Am Organic Gardening, located in Zone 6B in the state of New Jersey. And today we're going to be planting up some tulips, daffodils, and some alliums. But today I want to also share with you, later in the video, what's inside a tulip bulb. So in these paper bags we have our tulips, daffodils, and alliums. Let me give you a better close-up of what they look like. So here we have our sample of our beautiful tulips and our daffodils. Last but not least, our alliums. These are ornamental onions. That's what they're specifically go to. They're part of the onion family, but they produce a nice flower head. So today I'm going to use a trenching method. That's what I use the tractor for. So I'm going to make it a lot easier on myself planting up these tulips, daffodils, and alliums. Now I know a lot of people don't have a tractor, which is on your right hand side, but I just pulled back the topsoil. I rototilled it first. In this case, I'm not worried about no-till situation. This is all for just beauty of springtime and have something early in the spring to look at that is magnificent. And I know I haven't shared this with you, but maybe in other videos I said it shortly. My grandfather grew up in Holland, and actually he was an exporter of daffodils for quite a long time. He started before World War II, then they had to shut down because the Germans invaded, and then after World War II he came back into his business again with his brothers, and they imported daffodils to the United States, and we were proud to sell tulips for the White House around the center fountain for years, and also to the Washington Monument. And my biggest customer, and I was so proud of it, was to Mount Vernon Estates, where George Washington lived. We would sell them the original tulips that George Washington had during the centuries way back when as a gift, and we used to supply Mount Vernon all the time with tulip bulbs, you know, from Holland. So a little bit of history of my family, but we always enjoyed selling flower bulbs to the United States and to other countries for years. It's a farming business. You're never going to make a fortune out of it, but it's a beautiful business to be with, of course, out of Holland. So back to this trenching method, I pulled the soil back, like I said before, and I'm just going to make a small design throughout the bed here. It's probably, I would say, at least 30 to 40 feet long, and we'll see how far we get, but we're going to mix a couple different varieties in there so they look nice in the springtime. And at the end of the video I'll show you the varieties I'm talking about. I'll introduce a picture at the very end what's going to be going in here, but it's just simple. Whether you use a bulb auger that can drill a hole down or else too, the main thing is you don't want to plant them shallow. You don't want the bulbs to ever freeze in the soil. So that's why you plant them deep. With tulip, daffodils, and alliums, you want them to go down. You want at least 6 inches of covering on top of the bulb. So you have to really go down about 8 inches into the soil. Now with this, the soil is soft, so I'm going to be able to push them down, and then I'll make a little bit of a mound on top. But again, you should always, if you can, if you're in a very cold climate, it's always good to put a little mulch on top, leaf mulch or anything else too that you might have, and then again just rake it off in the springtime before even the shoots start coming up, so you don't hurt them or have a problem with them later on. Planting is so simple. Make any design you want. There's thousands of varieties of tulips and daffodils. There's early, mid, and late flowering. So what I have here, and I'll show you the pictures at the end. I have something that's going to come up early in the season, later in the season. At the very end is going to be those alliums that are going to grow about 4 feet tall with a big flower head on top, about the size of a cantaloupe. And okay, I'm going to get to planting, and I will show you when I'm done and the layout, and we'll go from there. And we're just going to make it a very simple video. And then again at the very end, I'm going to cut a tulip open, and I'm going to show you also what's inside a tulip at this point before planting. Here we are about mid-November. We're going to get a cold front coming in, so and the soil's still workable, so I want to get those tulips in the ground. One advantage of having a tractor is you can do this trenching method. Now I'm all done planting up about, say, 100 daffodils and 200 tulips and a dozen alliums. They look great, and I'll go down the line and explain to you, and I'll start showing some pictures of what everything is. So in the beginning of our trench, we have our daffodils planted. And when you're planting daffodils or tulips or any type of flower bulbs, you always want the pointy end up towards the top because the root base is always at the bottom. And the name of this daffodil is called Pink Charm, and this is what it's going to look like in the springtime. And next in the trench is our tulips with a pointy end up also. And this tulip is called Candy Prince, and it's another magnificent hybrid of tulips that have been developed over the years. Just a little shading of purple in there. Then we repeat the process with a different kind of daffodil. And our next daffodil is called geranium. And why I picked this variety is that it has actually a very delicate flower, but it is very fragrant. So when very valuable customers come over, I usually pick a couple and give them to them, and they're just astonished with this beauty of this daffodil. Then changing over to a different type of tulip. And my last tulip that I planted is called Beauty of Spring. And you can see over on the left-hand side here that it started out kind of like a pale white, and then will turn different shades as it matures towards this middle one color there. It's just magnificent. And again, it's always changing colors until the very end. Then placing randomly our alliums. And scattered throughout the bed, I have about a dozen of these alliums called Ambassador. And again, they make these beautiful flower heads. They're about 48 inches tall. And they're just amazing to see later in the spring when everything else is, when the daffodils and tulips are kind of dying off. This will be available to me. And if I wish I could cut these flowers and bring them inside, they're absolutely fantastic. And here we are at the end of the row, and I'll just backfill the dirt. And if it's not too much, I'll bring some more soil in from somewhere else so I can give them at least 6 to 8 inches of coverage on top of the flower bulbs. So as promised, I want to show you what's inside a tulip bulb, but first I want to just share this with you too. See how the skin is coming off of this tulip bulb here? That's alright. If you buy tulip bulbs and the skin is coming off, it doesn't mean that it's defective or nothing else either. It just means that the skin, there's different varieties, has dried up and it's just, opening up and cracking off. The tulip bulb is perfectly fine and will grow and be fantastic in your garden. Now, we're going to take this tulip bulb, and if I can, I'm going to try to slice it right down the middle without cutting my fingers here. Okay, like so. Now, inside every tulip bulb, now later in the stage here, you can see already that things are forming, of course. You have your leaves, and this actually here, I just cut into it. This part here is actually the flower for next year. There's one little part there. This other part, and since I have two, I'm going to cut this open. This other part here, the kind of pale yellow, if I get out of things here, this is the leaves for next year. You have, usually there's two leaves. You have one here and one inside the other flower bulb. And in the middle was your flower already developing like so. This is your flower for next year. So now I want to explain something to you. I used to sell all these. Now, the difference is that this bulb is big already. This is called a 12 centimeter plus tulip. And what you do when you get that, the size of the tulip bulb equals the size of the flower. So when you get smaller tulip bulbs in, let's say, chain stores that are like 11 centimeters, they're going to make a smaller flower. That's why you can purchase bigger bulbs to get bigger flowers. That's what it comes down to when you buy it. But that's what's inside a tulip bulb. And also too, you don't need to really fertilize them in the fall. You can do in the springtime. I know a lot of gardening channels put, like, say, bulb tone down. It really can't hurt. I know it takes breakdown. But inside here, you can see all these cell membranes here is actually the nutrients for the flower bulb. And what they'll do is they'll produce this. That's why you plant bulbs in the fall time. They need X amount of cold weeks to produce and allow this to grow. But now there's a forming in the ground is roots are going to be coming off the base of the bulb here. This is, like I said, as I mentioned, the pointy end always goes up. But at the bottom here, you can see it's kind of like a little bit of a scab. All roots will come out the bottom, and that's what you want to produce and grow in the ground now. And the reason why you want it to root and over winter you want it to root is that's going to bring up not nutrients, it's going to bring up just water to keep all this inside nice and moist and healthy. It has everything it needs to do its own flower and be successful. It's just the following year that you need, let's say, nutrients in the ground so the flower can do here, and this is the other one, that they reproduce making bulblets. This is a bulblet that's going to be ready for next year. This is a miniature, let's say, tulip that is forming off the base of the main bulb. And that's what happens. And a lot of people say, gee, like I plant a flower bulb one year and I get a nice big flower, in the second year I don't, because this flower bulb is splitting into smaller pieces, meaning smaller bulbs, meaning smaller flowers. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, inside a flower bulb is everything is already set for next year when you plant it now in the fall, and you don't have to do anything else, and this is all maturing. Now also you can just see here, making it out, the little stamens or petals of that flower bulb. I'll let it adjust, and those are the little petals and also antlers in there that are ready, all set for next year. And I'll do the same thing with this other flower bulb that the skin is coming off, and I'll show you that it's the same process. That again, that I cut it a little bit, you can see that those flowers are actually growing inside there already, and everything's safe. I want to thank you very much for watching today's video, but this is what's inside a flower bulb, and they're all set to go, and it's just amazing. Awesome. And again, please like and share the video. It helps out my channel immensely, and I'll see you again with another interesting video in the future. Thanks. Bye.